everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I am not talking about a book, I'm talking about The Handmaid's Tale Season 2. I finished watching it last night and figured out where it was when I finished watching it first time round. Basically, I got up to the point where June gives birth and then I couldn't remember anything after that, so I assume that was where I stopped because I couldn't remember anything. Let's talk about this season. I think in the first season I was most scared of Aunt Lydia. In the second season I wasn't as scared of her. Partly because I had googled Anne Dowd, the actress who plays her, and watched a lot of interviews of her as herself so that she didn't seem as terrifying. But also because there's a few funny moments this season with Aunt Lydia. In general, I think this is just a funnier season. The first season was very dark. I've started the third season and that's really dark, but the second season just had a couple of lighter moments in that really just helped to balance everything out a bit more, because it's a very hard-hitting show because of the concept of it. It is set in a dystopian future. It was written in the 80s, and I actually read that because it was written in the 1980s, the guesstimate for when Gilead was supposed to take place from the original book was supposed to be about 2005 apparently. So that is interesting and makes me feel very weird. Go through kind of who's in it, because I don't remember doing that with the first one. Got Elizabeth Moss as Offred, also known as June, and she becomes of other people throughout the season. Got Joseph Beans as Commander Fred Waterford, Yvonne Strahovski as Serena Joy Waterford, who is unbelievable. I love her so much. Alexis Bledel as Emily, also of Glenn, of Stephen, Roy, of Joseph. She goes to a lot of people. Madeline Brewer as Janine, who I mainly know as of Warren. Anne Dowd as Aunt Lydia. O.T. Fagbennel. I have no idea how to pronounce his surname. Sorry, playing Luke. Max Mingheller as Commander Nick Blaine. Samira Wiley as Moira Strand. Amanda Brugel as Rita. And Bradley Whitford as Commander Joseph. I feel like I did talk a little bit about season 2 just because of the book. In the first season webisode of this, at the beginning of the season, you see all the handmaids taken to what you start to realise is an abandoned Fenway Park, where they are there to be punished after the events of season 1. And so you see all of them, basically you see gallows, and you realise they are planning on hanging them. When you watch it knowing there's more season to come, you realise, oh, they can't kill everybody. And plus, the point of the handmaids is that they're protected because they are fertile. They can't kill the handmaids. You realise that Lydia really does actually care about the girls. Her job is to protect the handmaids. She doesn't want them to be silenced, which comes up a little bit later. Lydia ultimately does care for the handmaids, despite the horrors that she puts them through. At the end of the day, her job is to protect the handmaids because they're the ones who are carrying on the human race. They are the ones who are getting pregnant. When you talk about the commanders, half of them are like sterile anyway, so you can't say that the people, that like the couples of Gilead, you can't really say that they are the important ones. This whole thing was created because of fertility rates dropping. The handmaids are protected because they are the ones that can get pregnant. I've had a bit of an enlightenment after starting season 3 about all of this, because I realised I kind of had like a bit of an out loud conversation with myself while watching the beginning of season 3, and realising how important the handmaids are in this world, and the fact that at the end of the day, even though it's all kind of on the premise of religion, as I mean, Serena, before everything starts, as you find out her backstory in season 2, she was a TV evangelist, which they then go into hush hush and they don't talk about once like they're in Gilead. But she was on TV, she wrote a book about religion, and you realise that the reason that Gilead was made was that so she could have a child. That was her deal from it. Her whole deal of getting involved with this, it was just, at the end of the day, I want a child. And that is why I continue to play a part in all of this. You see her going truly crazy in season 2. Because even though you do have the slight moments, and even in season 3 and even in season 1, and I'm sure it'll happen in later seasons as well, where you see that Serena does have her caring moments. But at the same time, she's truly insane. And she has real fits of anger and hatred towards June. And also towards her husband. Whew. Serena is a real character to unpack. And Yvonne Strahovski plays her beautifully perfect to a T. The way Serena is portrayed through all of it is kind of incredible. Yvonne Strahovski should win all the awards, along with Anne Dowd, who plays Aunt Lydia. I think everybody just plays their part so well. I mean, in season 2, there was only one character that kind of annoyed me, but it's also partly because the character's like 15. She's a teenager, and she doesn't know any better. I think that was the reason she annoyed me, because she's married off to Nick, the driver, when they realise that something is happening between Nick and June. Marissa Tomei was in this. Marissa Tomei was in season 2. I obviously didn't recognise that at all. I do like the fact that it says Oprah Winfrey has an uncredited appearance as a newsreader on the car radio. I did not clock at all that she was in it, even though I knew that she was supposed to be on the radio. In that scene, it wasn't until I got to the end of the episode, it was just like, wait, it was Oprah on the radio, wasn't it? And I didn't pay any attention. I didn't connect at all that it was her. Eden, played by... Oh, I've lost her again. Sydney Sweeney, who I believe is in... Is it Euphoria? Yeah. I've heard so much about Euphoria, but I've never watched it. But some of the girls at work actually were talking about Euphoria yesterday. They were basically saying that it's like an American version of Skins. That was the only character that kind of annoyed me a little bit. It's only because of how young and how naive she is. The whole thing of the ceremony between, like, the married couples weirded me out, to be honest. Harry! Harrison? What's up? You want to come sit on me while I do this? Slinking away. What are you slinking away for? This cat does not sit still. Do you want to sit there? I do this with a cat on my lap and see how long he lasts. Yeah, but the only reason I wasn't really the biggest fan of Eden was because just of how naive she is. But yeah, that ceremony between her and Nick. I mean, because you see that Nick getting married to Eden, you realise that Nick does not want to sleep with Eden because she's 15. And then you've got Eden going to... Are you trying to nibble me, boy? Look at those wickers. You're going to attack me in a second. Yeah. Do not go for the toes. I need to hide the toes. I can see it happening. Why are you so wild? Do I need to go down and play with you after this? Yeah. No! It's when Eden goes to kind of other women in the household, because she moves in with Nick in the flat above the garage. It sounds so modern. Yeah, Eden goes to she goes to Serena. She speaks to June kind of about her role in the relationship with Nick as a married woman, and she's there going, he doesn't want to sleep with me, he doesn't want to go with me, and you know, how do I kind of have this relationship? Because she's kind of pretty much grown up through Gilead. I don't know how long Gilead would have gone on for at that point, because I think in the book Fred is the third family that June has been with. So obviously Gilead has kind of been in place for quite a while. So we assume that Eden was a child in Gilead. So this is all she's pretty much ever known. So she never thinks about the fact that she's a 15-year-old and that Nick is like in his 30s. And obviously doesn't want to sleep with a teenager. You know, Nick was kind of a part of kind of like the origins of Gilead, and so he remembers the time before. Eden has no concept of life before Gilead. So she does not realise that as a 15-year-old, it might actually be inappropriate, this relationship, in any way. And the only reason this relationship happens between Eden and Nick is because Serena realises that June and Nick are having a relationship. The reason that June got pregnant in the first place was because Serena realised that her husband was sterile. She knows she herself can't have a child because she was shot in the friggin' stomach, which I need to actually go into a little bit more because that actually happens in season 2 and not in season 1. I completely forgot about that. But yeah, because like Serena, when she realises that Fred is pretty much sterile and that even though June has already had a child, then she's not getting pregnant with any of the commanders so far. And I think there is a comment somewhere, I cannot remember where I saw it, whether it was in the series or whether it was in the book, how the majority of the commanders are actually sterile. You know, there's only a few of them that can actually have kids. Because it might be a comment in season 3 actually, where, or was it at the end of season 2, when I need to figure out where I am, because I think I'm about halfway through season 3. I need to check my episodes. Okay, I'm figuring out where I am. Basically, because season 2 ends with a bit of an escape happening, where June gets her new daughter out of Gilead. So some things I'm thinking of are actually beginning of season 3, so I don't quite want to be talking about them yet. I feel like I've said a lot without really saying that much. I always feel like I do this. The flashbacks throughout this season kind of concentrate on kind of like the overthrow of the American government. So you look very much into kind of the actual taking over of America, turning into Gilead. In season 1, you see June and Luke in the time before seeing the Capitol building being overthrown and the White House being attacked, which is so interesting to watch now in 2022. I'm in January. It's so interesting that's how that finished in 2018, considering what happened at the end of Trump's presidency and the attack on Capitol Hill. It's just all so interesting to watch, having gone through Trump's presidency and seeing how people reacted to that, and seeing how Handmaid's Tale kind of mirrored what was happening with Trump. This is becoming very political, but to be fair, I think it only could become political considering the basis of The Handmaid's Tale. It starts off with the American government being overthrown to implement Gilead in the first place. So actually, the first season came out the year that Trump got into office. Seriously. So Handmaid's Tale was always going to be a parallel to the Trump presidency. That is so weird to think about. Oh my god. Feels really inappropriate to say when I'm talking about Handmaid's Tale. Because I saw a thing where I think a few religious groups have kind of come out against Handmaid's Tale, mainly Christians, who are saying that Handmaid's Tale is offensive to their religion, and I'm just there thinking, oh my god, read the book. Oh my god, watch the television series. This has nothing to do with religion. They're using religion to kind of be the basis of Gilead, but nowhere in the book, nowhere in the series do you ever see any of the commanders go to church. That should be a really, really big statement to anybody out there who thinks about the religious undertones of A Handmaid's Tale. None of them go to church. And it makes you realise that this has nothing to do with religion and everything to do with power. The commanders are there silencing all the women. That's all they want to do. They want to prove themselves as kind of like the authority of Gilead, as kind of like men are better than women. But at the same time, they also realise that everything comes back to the handmaids. Because without the handmaids, they cannot kind of achieve their goal, which is to reproduce in Gilead. The whole point of Gilead is the families and the children. There's a point in, was it in season 1 or season 2, where they bring out the children of Gilead? But yeah, because like the whole point is that it always comes back to the children of Gilead. I mean, when everything is going tits up, when everything feels like it's crashing around them, when they have that big dinner and they bring the children out, sorry, I'm being attacked by the cat again, and they bring the children out and suddenly they all remember why they're doing it. And they're just like, oh yeah, this is why we're doing it. We're doing it because of the children. But at the same time, the children aren't in their best interest, because if the children really were in their best interest, they wouldn't be separated from the people who were giving birth to them. It's just such an interesting thing to talk about. So just to kind of like go into a little bit of kind of what happens, basically, because her pregnancy comes out in the first episode. You do know about the pregnancy by the end of season 1, but it becomes more obvious in season 2. Because of what happens at Fenway Park with the gallows, and when they try to kind of shock everybody into submission by saying, we're going to hang you, and then they go, no, this is just a scare tactic. We are trying to remind you what we can do, but also remind you that you are still important. It's back at the Red Centre, back at the training centre, where Aunt Lydia finds out about June's pregnancy, and Aunt Lydia goes into full protection mode. This is where it leads to the comedy of the season, when Aunt Lydia goes into proper auntie mode, and she goes into kind of, she's there for June throughout the pregnancy, and she wants to make sure that June has a healthy pregnancy, because obviously Lydia wants the babies to be healthy. She gets very upset when the babies, you know, when anybody miscarries, when there's any issues with any of the pregnancies, when any of the babies are ill. Aunt Lydia, you can see that the word aunt is in there for a reason. She's there as an auntie to the children, to the handmaids, even to the family. She's got respect from everybody. And I'll admit, now that I've read the Testament, just seeing Aunt Lydia in a whole new light thanks to the Testament is just blah, blah, blah. But yeah, so, because everything with Aunt Lydia, because I mean, I think I'm about to get Aunt Lydia's backstory in season 3, which I think slightly conflicts with the story put out about Aunt Lydia in the Testament's book, but we'll see. We'll talk about that when we get to that. The comedy moments that come from Aunt Lydia looking after June. I think it starts off with Aunt Lydia coming into the Waterford house and making like green smoothies. That's the bit where I started to kind of get a few laughs out, because Aunt Lydia makes this horrible green smoothie for June, saying like it's full of vitamins and like it's good for you, and June has a little bit of a sip and she's like, oh, this doesn't taste very nice, so I'll have a sip. And Aunt Lydia goes, so you can do better than that. And so June basically has a big gulp of it, where Lydia goes, oh, good girl. And then June throws it up on the table, and you've got Serena looking on going, oh god. You've got Aunt Lydia looking at it thinking, we'll make another one. She actually says that, she said, we'll make another one. And that's what started off some of the comedy for me. When June comes back to the house, and like, there's moments when she's like in the bath and Lydia comes in and she's just like, make sure to clean everywhere, darling. And so June like fully like locks eyes with Aunt Lydia while she's cleaning herself. Like, she's there looking at Lydia thinking, you're getting off on this, aren't you? And Lydia's just there going, good girl. It's so creepy, but it's also funny at the same time, because it's gotten to this point when I just accept this world of Gilead. This whole world is completely bonkers, but it's come to a point when it almost feels normal to watch, and that's really disturbing. But it's gotten to the point where, because season 1 kind of introduces you to this world, and it's kind of the shock horror reaction of seeing the world kind of in this place. But then by season 2, because you've established that, it means that you can put that comedy in, you can have that normalcy to it. So when you see Aunt Lydia going into auntie mode, looking after June, you know, watching her while she's in the bath, which is creepy but kind of funny at the same time. You've got her with the smoothies. Yeah, just that whole thing of seeing Aunt Lydia as like a proper auntie just really just led into the comedy of it, because you go from having Aunt Lydia as this terrifying woman to actually seen a bit kind of the nicer side of her. And thanks to the Testaments, I'm more aware of some of the nicer moments, and the fact that she does genuinely care for the girls, and she has such a strong relationship with Janine, but she almost looks at her as like a bit of a daughter in a way, I think. She just got the biggest soft spot for Janine, Aunt Lydia does. And throughout the season you start to realise that she also has a bit of a soft spot for June, despite some of the horrible things that Aunt Lydia does. I mean, leading into season 3, you almost see a bit of a friendship happening there, because the handmaids need their allies, and a lot of people are against them. Like, the wives of the commanders resent them because of the ceremony, and obviously the commanders are essentially raping them. Though I find it interesting, though, I think it's actually a quote from the book which made it into the series, where it says, you know, I'm technically a willing participant in this, so therefore it's not rape. And it's just like, you're not really willing though, are you? Because you've been held down by the wife and you were kidnapped into this lifestyle. June was trying to run away to Canada with her husband and her daughter when they got separated. You know, her husband did actually make it to Canada, but then she and her daughter were kidnapped and separated. June never had a say. The idea that she was a willing participant in the households and in the ceremony, which is basically what they call the moment when the commander has sex with the handmaid for purely just procreating purposes. It's just such an interesting concept. I know I keep saying that, but I'm just completely fascinated by it all and how it happens, and kind of hoping that because somebody has created like a hypothetical fictional world of this, that it keeps us on alert and that it makes us realise what we can do to stop something like this from happening. Just to kind of go in a completely different direction, there was something, I think there was a report about, I don't know if this was real, I saw it on Instagram, but a report about a dinosaur egg that was found, and people were going, this is the start of Jurassic Park, we do not want to go down this route. And I just thought that was quite funny. It was just like, yeah. Season 2 of Handmaid's Tale kind of wraps up with June trying to escape with her newborn daughter. And I'll admit, I think I finished around about the time that June gave birth, but I do have vivid images and memories of the attack on Aunt Lydia at the end of the season. I think I might have just kind of spaced out a little bit on some of it, but the moment when, is it Emily? Yeah, played by Alexis Bledel, when Emily kind of goes crazy in her new commander's house and she attacks Aunt Lydia. That moment was a bit of a kind of a moment of, Emily's completely lost it. At this point, it kind of seems to come a little bit out of nowhere. I say that, seeing how she reacts to being in the other commander's house, who is played by, is it Bradley Whitford? Didn't he win like an Emmy Award for this or something? Yes, Bradley Whitford as Commander Joseph Lawrence. He's a guest in season 2. He turns up about 2 or 3 episodes before the end. He's the founder of the colonies, and he's a bit of a rogue agent, really. He's kind of on both sides, because he's involved in kind of helping Emily, June, and baby Nicole get out and into Canada. He has a role in that. And so it'll be interesting to look at season 3, where his alliances actually lie, if that makes sense. You don't really know what side he's on. I really feel like I've said absolutely nothing about season 2, though I'm sure I have, because I feel like I've talked about certain things. But I think it's because it just goes so much deeper, just because of the whole backstory of Gilead. The main thing about this season for me was the fact that it had that comedy moments coming from Aunt Lydia when she was kind of portraying like a proper auntie in relation to June and the baby. And then you've also got Serena just completely losing it. You see the backstory of Serena. I did mention I was going to talk about it, so I will do. With the fact that you do see kind of her life before Gilead, the lead up to the creation of Gilead with her husband, and what happens when she does get shot. She goes to a school, or is it a university, to talk about kind of her ideology and what Gilead will do for people. And there's like signs being held up in the auditorium calling her a Nazi, and everyone telling her to go home and that she's not welcome and that she and her husband aren't welcome. And when they realise that it's not safe for her to talk, she's kind of ushered out, and she has a bit of a moment where she's just like, this is, you know, you need to shut up. This is what we're fighting for, you know, at this rate, what we're doing isn't enough. We need to change tactics. And she actually gets a bit of a cheer because people are going, oh wait, no, she's talking about carrying on the human race. And so she gets a couple of people kind of on side with her little outburst. But then as she leaves, you know, you've got kind of a bit of the resistance happening, where she gets shot when trying to get back into the car, and she's shot in the stomach. And you're just like, this is the reason why she can't have her own children. And part of the reason why she continues to fight for Gilead, because ultimately she will she's determined to get a child out of this deal. This season also has a really, really good look at the reaction of the women in regards to having their rights stripped away when Gilead kind of started, because you see Serena as being this big part of the creation of Gilead, only then to have her rights stripped away as soon as it starts. You know, she goes on from, you know, being on TV, you know, talking and writing about her own things, and then she goes into Gilead where her voice is taken away, she's not allowed to read or write, and then you have this moment where she's saying, I want my daughter to be able to read a book. I want to my daughter to be able to read the Bible, because this is why I started all of this. And so when she stands up in front of like a room full of men with all the other wives behind her, and she opens up a Bible and starts reading, and everyone's going, you know, you've taken this too far, you've taken this too far. But she's doing it because she's saying, you told us all that the women aren't allowed to read, but our daughters deserve to read the Bible. That's when you start to realise how much it is about power, when they won't even let the daughters read the Bible, because you realise that actually, when women can read, they learn, and then they get the power from that. But yeah, it's just all about that power. And the way that Fred reacts to Serena kind of standing up for herself and reading that part of the Bible where she's trying to kind of give evidence that daughters should be allowed to read the Bible. The men's reaction to that, and also the wives' reaction to that, when some of them start walking out saying, this is too much for me, I don't want to be a part of this. Yeah, it's quite a powerful moment for Serena. And throughout this season, you, as well as having Serena's completely off the wall moments where she seems so utterly cruel, to then almost having a bit of an alliance with June when she allows June to read and write while Fred is in the hospital, you just realise how completely fucked up it is for Serena to have had that role in the creation of Gilead and then just have everything taken away from her. I think that throughout the book, I think the evolvement of Serena's character is one of the most interesting to watch, because for June, it seems quite obvious that everything is always going to come back to her kids. At the end of the season, when Emily gets into the back of the van to go to Canada, and June just hands her the baby and then closes the door, and you realise, oh, her other daughter is still in Gilead, she's not leaving. So at this point, everything that June is doing is for the child that she had before, who is still in Gilead, and the child that she's just given birth to, who she knows is her and Nick's daughter, and obviously is not related to Serena and Fred in any way. So she's like, this is my daughter, this isn't your daughter, and so I'm going to do what's best for her. Serena thinks that she's kind of like in alliance with June at that point, and is saying, you know, I want what's best for her as well, and you know, I think that she does deserve to escape. Yeah, and then as you go into season 3 and you see Serena just flip-flopping even more, and yeah, Serena's just such an interesting one to watch just because of how that story evolves and kind of the different kind of back and forth that you see happening in her brain with the cogs turning and everything. Oh, it's so good, it's so interesting, and I can't wait to talk about season 3. These are probably even more in depth than the American Horror Story ones, just because I'm just so fascinated with that world. And I can't believe it was one woman that did all this, and the fact that it was all taken from things that have happened in history and in the Bible. And I mean, the whole concept of Gilead and the Handmaids comes from a religious story which has been completely taken out of context and completely turned on its head. And in that moment when you realise, hang on, throughout all of this, they all claim it's in the name of religion, they all say it's in the name of Christianity and in the name of God, and they never go to church. They have small references to the Bible and stuff in like some of the stories that they tell and the way they greet each other, but at the end of the day, it's obvious that religion has absolutely nothing to do with it, and it's all about the power that the commanders hold. And also that complete reversal when you realise that the whole thing hangs on the handmaids and the aunts. The women they were trying to shut down and silence and separate, they've just brought them together. Because the aunts are there for the handmaids. Even though the aunts punish the handmaids as well, Aunt Lydia cares. And the moment, it is at the end of season 1, when all the handmaids go around in the supermarket and they are sharing each other's names. They're going, hi, my name is June. Hi, my name is Emily. You know, all of that stuff where they're all sharing their names. They've created their own group. They've created their own resistance. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. This is going to be the longest video I've ever had to edit, I imagine. I cannot see how long I've been filming for because I don't have that on my screen. I need to change my settings again. I've just kind of rebooted my camera after all the issues I've had, and I haven't had an overflow buffer this whole time, which means I might have fixed it. Hopefully. Anyway, I'm going to go have some lunch. I'm going to go have a cup of tea. I'm going to watch a bit of Handmaid's Tale and also watch a bit of Shabba and Jamie on my iPad. Binge watching Shabba's channel at the moment on YouTube, and I'm loving it. I love her so much. She's just so cool. I wish I'd be as cool as Shabba. But yeah, so thank you so much for watching. The next one I'll be doing will be on season 3. I've also got lots of books lined up. I have been reading so much recently. But yeah, so thank you so much. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. Hello to the new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining the family. I will see you next week with another video. Goodbye. Love you. Stay safe. I need to go play with the cat. Bye.